Phil.
What did I say?
I'm here.
No, because I was saying earlier that we probably weren't going to be on time because something always happens. It's just the nature, of things.
Yeah, right.
Well, before anybody starts, I think we can't. We're getting that they don't hear you, Vincent. We got one comment says that they don't hear you.
So I'm gonna redo that.
Hmm.
Nikki.
Wow, bro.
Just like last
Yeah,
time.
it's always the same.
Finished.
There we go.
Right after your first little.
Hey, it's a tradition, man. All right, Nikki, tell me if you hear us now. Go ahead and hit and comment on that. I'm fixing up cameras as we do that. I'm going to have to do it one more time. I don't know why it keeps changing.
There's a little bit of a delay, so it's going to take a while till we see her response.
That's fine. All right, so I'm just going to redo that monologue. All righty, guys, welcome back to the Hype Train. This is we're going to talk all about the Ghost of Tsushima PlayStation exclusive that comes out this Friday. Obviously, this game is based off of true events. This is actually based off of an invasion from the Mongols in 1274 into Tsushima Island, which is right outside of Japan, right above the Japanese mainland. And we're going to be talking about this game. There's a lot to hype up about it. What I said earlier, but you guys couldn't hear me. Josh and Ralph are historians, so they're going to be talking about real samurai and Japanese history, especially around that time, which will be really interesting. And again, let's talk about our expectations, what we are hoping for in the game. Let's talk about what we don't want to see in the game. And let's talk about the overall. I guess this is the game, other than Cyberpunk, this is the last game of this generation. So let's also talk about that. I don't know who wants to go first, but let's go ahead and start.
I want to say that I think the most important aspect of this game is that it's not about Vikings. Because, bro, like, I fucking hate Vikings. Like, Vikings are everywhere. They're in movies. They're in shows. They're in games. There's going to be an Assassin's Creed game, Valhalla, coming out about it.
Yeah.
And they're, like, even in grooming products. So, like, they're everywhere. So just that, for me, is fantastic. Second of all, I really like that it doesn't take place inside the Mongol Empire, but it's it's about something the Mongols do, which is the 1274 invasion, which is actually one of the largest naval invasions in history up until D-Day. And um, the Mongols they don't get a lot of attention in video games, even though they had the largest empire in history. And their empire goes through changes over the course of the centuries and stuff like that. And so I'm just kind of happy that they're getting a little bit of attention. I mean, they're the villains that you kill, but I mean, it's something.
I think it's so interesting that it's taken this long to get an open world. Would this be considered RPG? Essentially, right?
Sorta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have side quests and stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing is you don't have character creation, so you're.
Yeah, but there's a lot of customization from what I've
definition.
seen on the streams and stuff. There's a lot of customization to like what we were talking about a few weeks ago, where you guys want to be like straight up samurai throughout the entirety of the game, especially with the way they dress. But I think it's really interesting that it's taken this long to get an open world RPG based in Japan with samurais
For
and
samurai.
ninjas and et cetera, when like everyone's been clamoring for this since like Assassin's Creed came out. Assassin's Creed was something that everyone wanted to be based out in Japan at some point, and they never got to the point.
Yep.
And they actually got into the Vikings,
Yep.
like Ralph just said, which we already have God of War, which is super into the Norse mythology and very Viking-esque. And we haven't had a really like strong story driven Japanese open world RPG game, I don't think, ever. So that's definitely something I'm really excited about. I think the landscapes alone are gorgeous.
Can you count Sekiro as an open world game?
Not really.
I would consider
It's
it like a linear open game, kind of like Naughty Dog games or Uncharted or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's more like God of War.
Yeah.
Because you have like your hub, and then you can go in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
You get me?
This is true.
So it's kind of like that, where it's like open world, but it's not open field any direction. You're kind of like stuck on a path, but there's many paths, and the paths interlink. It's Metroidvania basically.
Gotcha.
That's where it comes from.
So speaking of Sekiro, question is, Sekiro's very fantasy, right? And a lot of these Japanese games have been fantasy driven. So this game is very much realistic, down to the ground, down to earth type of feel, and it's based off of actual events. So what I guess my question is to you guys is, do you want to see fantasy elements in this, or do you want to see them stick more to the realism and historic kind of vibe?
I want the realism.
Yes.
Same.
I mean, I'm a history nerd, so the more realistic it is, the better.
Which it does seem it's like the game itself and the setting, all that's gonna be realistic, but the way he fights and the armor he wears isn't exactly like accurate to the exact time period. It's like a few hundred years later that they start fighting like that and wearing that kind of armor.
Yeah, so like one thing I noticed was that in the gameplay, when he shows the actual, like when you could do the samurai approach and just kind of walk into the camp and just like fuck people up, the armor he wore there was like closer to what they would have worn back then, because that's the Kamakura period, which lasted by I think between 1185 and 1333. So we're like right in there, like in the middle of it. And samurai were a novel concept still.
Babies.
Yeah, like as an idea, they were still very new, and they had to kind of, their armor was very blocky, very like it looked like big sheets of like stuff like on your body, and it looked kind of odd. But when the ghost armor looks closer to what you would have seen like a few hundred years later. But I think the samurai armor, when you go in, is a little closer to what it would have looked. At least the shoulder plates, because the shoulder plates were like gigantic.
Now, how do you feel with, like, as far as you guys are so into history and actually know the history about it? How do you guys feel about them doing that approach of swaying away from the more traditional samurai into this more story of the ghosts?
I mean, like to a certain extent, I mean, gameplay comes first, right? Like you wanna give players the most options they can have to kind of approach a situation, and to a certain extent, it's realistic because if he is like the only samurai on this island, then it stands to reason he would start using guerrilla tactics and start sneaking around and stuff like that because that's what rebels do throughout all of history. Doesn't matter what you did before, um, and so I'm fine with it because it gives players more choice, um, and it also even though it might not be 100% accurate, Samurai did do whatever the fuck they needed to do
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So I'm not bothered at all by it.
John, what's your expectations on this game? What are you looking forward to?
No, man, I think what you said earlier, you touched base on like Assassin's Creed. This is the Assassin's Creed that we've all wanted. I would say we've been wanting a samurai ninja-esque Assassin's Creed style. At least from what I've seen about the videos, of gameplay on this game, I've seen like it's kind of a mix of like old Assassin's Creed, kind of with almost like Arkham Asylum-esque style. Like, it's where you block, hit, move, block, hit, hide. So it's very tactical, where you could be tactical and stealth, or you could just go straight in and fuck shit up. So I think that's kind of what more I'm looking forward to. It's definitely between the dynamics and just the settings alone. I mean,
I think from everything that we've seen, this game has to be one of the most beautiful games that's going to be out. I'm going to be on photo mode like there's no
without
tomorrow.
A doubt. Without a doubt.
Definitely.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's.
Now I have a curious question for specifically for John and Josh, and for Ralph only because you haven't played it yet. I don't really want to get too much into it, but you've seen gameplay, you've seen trailers, and all that stuff. But my curiosity is, right, we had The Last of Us Part 2 recently, obviously. And The Last of Us Part 2 has this level of design and graphics and motion capture and attention to detail that is like leagues above most of this generation. And so for Ghost of Tsushima to come out after that, I know it's an open world game. It's not a linear game. So when it comes to linear games, they have a lot more freedom in specifying, specific mechanics and level design, et cetera, et cetera. But will now, because we've played those games, because we played The Last of Us, and we see the amount of attention to detail to like just the smallest freaking pixel, will that affect how you see Ghost of Tsushima? If like, let's say, because I remember watching one of the gameplays, and the ghost basically runs into like a fox, and the fox starts running into the forest, but it looks a little janky, and the fox looks a little iffy. And so now that I played The Last of Us, and I see like the texture on the dogs and like all that other stuff, now I'm like I have a little bit of that. I'm gonna go into this game, and is this gonna be as graphically as like impressive as The Last of Us Part 2? Does that affect you guys in any way?
No, absolutely not. I think they're. I mean, again, I feel like I ran through The Last of Us 2 so fast that I need to replay it to see the little details. But what I've seen in Ghost of Tsushima, I think it's going to be a whole different adventure, a whole different, how do I say, outcome. Gaming wise, I think from the wolf to, I think even the wind, like the wind direction is supposed to help you out too in some way. I think it shows you where to go or something. I think it's a whole different adventure. I think it's two different fucking worlds, man. To be honest. What about you, Josh?
Well, now that I think about it, I mean, it is going to be most likely not as detailed as you say, but I think it would probably be more comparable to something like Red Dead, because Red Dead is gonna be is beautiful, but it's also gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be more comparable to that. Like I might in my head I might be like, oh, this looks as good as Red Dead or something like that. Because there's no way I can compare it to Last of Us.
Yeah.
It's like two different like sports.
Yeah,
You know
because
what I mean?
my thing is that like this is just my opinion and my mentality, but it's interesting to see the end of this generation goes into the last 3 games for PlayStation's generations: Last of Us Part 2, it's Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk 2077, and do you guys know? I haven't done the research, but Sucker Punch. What other games did they work on? I'll actually look it up.
Infamous, and Sly Cooper.
Okay, so this is their first like open world, like detailed, crazy high generation game, right?
Right.
So
I will tell you, they have a lot to live up to. I think, especially after coming out after Last of Us, and before the Avengers game, and I think they need to step up. I mean, they got a big throne. They got a big seat to fill. Might I say?
yeah, I think the thing is that my opinion and my mentality on it is like we're seeing the end of the generation of the best that this generation can do, the best that PlayStation 4 can do, and it's just going to be interesting to me how the next generation comes in. And I'm only bringing this up because Ghost of Tsushima will eventually become upgraded for PlayStation 5. And all these games are coming around the same time, but they're all this like certain levels of detail, certain level of graphics and all that. And I'm curious to know if like, will other people view the game, and because they've played, maybe more technical games before then, will it kind of throw you off in the sense of like being immersed into that world? So that's why I asked if The Last of Us Part 2 would change that, kind of look for you. But like you said, Josh, it makes sense. It's more comparable to like Red Dead Redemption 2, because of the open world.
I think if I can chime in here real quick, I think you got to take it on a game-by-game basis. You know what I mean? Because Witcher is gorgeous. Like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful games to come out in the last 10 years. But then you have shit like Roach appearing in the sky. Like Roach appearing in the sky.
Roach is the reason I drink.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like, we kind of tolerate that because everything else is so good. You know what I mean? So you just got to take it as it comes and kind of make your assessment. I don't think you can really compare it because it really is going to be its own thing.
Yeah.
And I think you should kind of treat it as its own self-contained thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think one of the things I'm really looking forward to and I'm really curious about is the combat. Because from what I've seen, from what we've all seen, it's the combat varies depending on whether I think it also depends on your armor too, like how you move. And if you're wearing the samurai armor, you're going to move a lot slower than if you use the ghost armor. And I'm
way louder.
Yeah, and I'm really curious on how strict the combat's going to be. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm really curious on how much that affects the combat. Does that make sense? Because like in Sekiro, it's like you have to be precise. You have to be. If not, you're dead.
It sounds like it's going to be like that because I saw, I forgot who it was, but there was one guy that was reviewing it recently, and he was talking about how, like, you have 1 to 2 hits to kill an enemy, usually 1 hit, and then like bigger enemies, it'll be 2 or 3, like mini bosses and shit. But for you, like they'll hit you twice and you'll die. So you also have to be careful.
Yeah.
So which I like that. I like that it's the same across because they're using the same weapons on you, or not the same, but they're using swords on you. And if I'm using a sword and killing you in 1 shot, then it stands to reason that if you hit me with a sword, I should go down in 1 shot.
That's one thing. Like, and just getting a little off subject, but that's one thing I wish that some games would include in their difficulty settings. I wish that there was a realism difficulty mode that if I really do hit you with the sword 1 time in the right area, you're dead. Like, it shouldn't take 15. And if you hit me 1 time, I should be dead. But that should be like a difficulty
that raises the stakes.
Yeah, because I hate that like I raise difficulty, and all it does is just make them harder to kill. Like, and in the sense that like it takes 10,000 hits to kill them, versus easy where it takes one. But that's more realistic. If I'm playing The Witcher and I fight someone and I chop their head off, if I cut their head, like they're supposed to die. It shouldn't take 10,000 hits. So I wish like they had that realism kind of difficulty in most games, but we'll see how the difficulty is in this one. I'm curious about that.
It's gonna be close to that from what I've seen. So that's another thing to look forward to.
What about what we're hoping the game doesn't have? Or what we're not looking forward to?
A creed of assassins.
Just a creed of samurais.
Vikings.
Yep.
Abby.
Absolutely.
Oh God.
We're not gonna go into that.
Can't talk about it.
But
I'm hoping it doesn't try to pull some kind of magical bullshit. I hope he doesn't go into a cave or some shit, and he has some kind of sorceress epiphany. Like, I want it to be grounded, in its historical setting. I don't want like any kind of
now what if it had
Creedy kind of
what
shit.
if it had, just out of curiosity, because I feel like some people might think about this, but what if let's say it had the complete story, right? Everything was grounded, realistic, et cetera, but then they had a DLC where it did include that type of stuff. Like, let's say a DLC and there's like a sword that comes on fire or whatever. Because like in Assassin's Creed, I think in Origins, right, it was pretty realistic, in the sense of like historical realism. But then there was the DLC of like the pharaohs or something where you got to fight the gods and all that. Right?
Yeah.
So
Curse of the Pharaohs.
yeah, and it's a DLC, so it doesn't affect the main story. So like, Ralph, would you be interested if they were to do something like that?
Yeah, if it was separate from the main story,
Okay.
I don't see a problem with that.
Gotcha. Yeah, one thing I'm kind of afraid of, not afraid, but like, I just don't want to build up the expectation too much, but a lot of open world games have the sense of, like let's say Far Cry, where you have to go to the freaking towers and climb up a tower and connect to them. And
Far Cry.
Yeah. Or
Ubisoft
yeah,
games.
which we're going to have another live stream to talk about Far Cry 6, by the way, with Espinito.
Oh.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, but give me a second to beat Far Cry 3, though.
Yes, please. You haven't beat it yet? Oh, no, you haven't beat it yet. That's right.
He's only like 6 years behind. It's all good.
8,
You'll
2012.
you'll see Voss, bro. That's my boy. But
That's the main reason
that's
I'm playing.
the best reason. but that's one thing I'm kind of like, I hope they find something different in the sense of like, where you don't have to like go around. I hope they don't have the traditional repetitive open world quests is what I'm saying. I hope they like they really like like allow you to do more unique type of quests, like in The Witcher. The Witcher, every quest is freaking like built from the bottom up, and that's what I'm kind of hoping for from this game. And I'm kind of hoping there's not a lot of repetitive, because I already saw the black smoke or whatever, and I could already tell that's just like Far Cry. You got black smoke, that means it's an enemy camp. If you take it over, then your people take it over, and
There's gonna be camps like that. But the cool thing about, I don't think there's gonna be like a tower system to like open the map or anything, or to like discover the map. I don't think it's gonna be like that.
okay.
I think it's just gonna be like you organically find stuff and it'll appear in the map. And also another thing, speaking of the map, it's gonna be really cool because in the beginning it's gonna lock you to like the southernmost region, and then as soon as you progress past a certain point in the campaign, it'll open up the central region, and then open up the top. So you have like a chance to get through everything in each place, and not run through the story, and then have to do like 15 camps in a row, and then you're like, okay, I'm sick of doing camps. So if you do it like little by little as the game opens up, it'll be nice. And then it doesn't feel as overwhelming.
We just got a comment from, well, first of all, we got one from Alan, and he's like down with communism. And he's like, Anthem is beautiful, but it's also, let me see.
Anthem. It's also Anthem.
Yeah.
Quick thing. Just getting off topic, but just to answer Alan. Yeah, Anthem is Anthem. Anthem was one of those games that everyone hyped. Listen, do you see this? Do you see this? I love Iron Man. And when you tell me there's an open world game where I get to build my own Iron Man and fly around with my friends around this crazy open world, like, I'm excited for it. But when I join in and I'm at the bazaar and everyone's like,
and there's like 3 people.
And there's like 3 people when in the trailer there was like 50 and they're not talking to each other. And then, you go fly and I literally played the demo. The beta, and I remember that I played with you, Josh, and we did like 3 missions. I was like, when do we get to do our first mission? And you're like, we did 3 of them already. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on, dude. Like, yeah, that game is garbage. And then Emily, Ubisoft is great. Come on, go to an area, reveal a part of the map with a climbing puzzle, do all the missions, and get all the collectibles complete. Yes, that's a lot of games do that. The thing is that I'm just hoping that with Ghost of Tsushima and with future open world games is that they try to find a way out of that formula. Like, yeah, finding these new locations is great. This is my own personal opinion. Doesn't have to do with anyone else, but I personally don't care about collectibles unless it matters within the game. If it's a collectible that actually gives me something within the game, then it's great. But if not, I just pick it up, I look at it for 2 seconds, I put it away, and like, okay. And as far as like going into different locations and, opening up with a climbing puzzle, all that stuff, I've done that with virtually every open world game you could think of, and it, yeah. Sorry, Iron Man helmet. Every Far Cry game, Spider-Man did that. Pretty much virtually every open world game does that, and I'm just hoping that there's like, just a different way of doing the formula. And I don't know everything, so I don't know what that is because I'm not a game designer. But, maybe if it's even like a part of the story where you're going to war in a specific area and they give you a mission or whatever, and then that's, it's to get your troops there or something, and then that's how you open up the area, whatever the case may be. I just think I just hope that they kind of get out of those tropes and find their own way, which, to what John said, the wind and the birds and the animals kind of guiding you to different places, I think is a really cool addition because I think that's something new.
Yeah, the less on the HUD, the better.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Hit me. Hit us.
For all you guys. When you saw the gameplay, when you saw the trailers, how many Mongols did you see on horseback?
Like 0.
I don't think,
0.
I don't remember. No.
And so I'm kind of like, I don't know, like I know they're just the enemies, but I think the Mongols should have been portrayed a little bit more accurately because the Mongols built their empire on horseback with bows. And all the Mongols I saw in the gameplay, they all had swords, they all had spears. And there was like one guy with a bow that the guy playing just killed in a second. But I mean, like, there weren't any horses, and I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck?
Where are the Mongols?
Like, yeah, So, mind you, like, this is Kublai Khan's reign. So
it's funny you said that because I was just reading it now because I was curious, and I'm curious to know your opinion. But like in real life, like you said, it's Kublai Khan, which is Genghis Khan's grandson, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the game, apparently it's not him. It's led by Khotun Khan.
Yes, they're fictionalizing history.
Well,
basically,
you also have to consider. You also have to consider that Kublai Khan was the Khan of Khans, right? He was the emperor of the empire, which is transcontinental at this stage. And so there are other Khans, but they're chieftains. You know what I mean? Like they're lowlier chieftains who lead their own little clans and stuff like that. So they still have like this kind of pseudo tribal system. So we can't confuse the title Khan with just like the overall ruler, because that's not necessarily what it might be. The main villain might be a kind of a tribal, like a leader of a clan that serves Kublai Khan, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I also read that in the real history that they were basically like they tried to invade Tsushima and it didn't work. They just basically pushed them out, and they continued later on, and just they can never conquer anything within Japan, right?
That's correct.
That's absolutely true. Yep.
Now, can you talk a little bit about that? Is it because of their numbers? Was it because of their what is it that stopped them from being able to take over Japan in that time?
Well, the first time, if I'm not mistaken, was and maybe Josh knows better than I do, but there was the Divine Wind, right? There was
I think it was both times.
I don't know if it was I don't remember clearly right now if it was the first or second time, but one of the times there was basically a typhoon that destroyed most of the Mongol armada before they even got to Japan. So that kind of fucked them over from the outset. And when they actually got to the beaches, the samurai just kind of outdid them because, again, the Mongols they have their strength on land, on horses. So when you got these crazy dudes with like this plate armor, this like kind of like sheet armor run at you with like these fucking katanas and shit, who have been trained for years since they became adults, or even earlier than that, to fight that way. I mean, and you're just trying to get on the sand. I mean, what the fuck are you gonna do?
Can you imagine?
You know what I mean?
Can you just imagine, like, being a Mongol, the very first Mongol to step foot on Tsushima Island, and how it's just seeing that for the first time.
And he looks like a small shed.
Exactly.
You remember,
exactly.
John? I know they have, but John, have you seen The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise?
Of course.
So, which is probably gonna get canceled now because a white guy playing whatever. But I remember the scene in the beginning of the movie when he's at war and they're in the forest and all the soldiers are pointing their guns towards the tree line and everything's quiet and then you hear like the steps of the horses. And then you just see the horns of the samurai like just coming through that like fog, and like the one guy fired early because he just got super scared, and I remember sitting there like, oh my god, dude, that shit's creepy looking, and so like I could imagine like the first Mongols like just witnessing this,
Now, and another thing you got to consider historically is that in Chinggis Khan's era, that's apparently the proper way to pronounce Genghis Khan is Chinggis Khan. Like the Mongols from his time period were really rugged and tough, and they were all elite and all that because that's how they had to be to survive on the steppe. But you got a couple generations pass by, you got a couple of generations of decadence and stagnation, and Kublai Khan's Mongols they weren't as good as his grandpa's Mongols. And, and he even employs a bunch of, his ships weren't even built by Mongols. They were built by Chinese, and they were crewed by a bunch of Chinese. And he had Chinese infantry and stuff like that. So, and he had like tens and thousands of them. And there were fewer samurai, but the amount of training and time that goes into the development of each individual samurai means that they're gonna be able to take you on quite easily even if you outnumber them.
They're like Spartans in that case, in that kind of way. Where it's like training from early on. So if you just have numbers on them, it's not gonna really help you.
No, and they'd rather
unless it's
what's it called when they take their own life versus getting taken by the enemy.
The seppuku.
Yep. Yeah, they're
Harakiri.
warriors, man. It's no jokes. I'm really excited to play Ghost of Tsushima for that like sense. But one thing I want to bring up, which Emily commented about the and I'm probably butchering it, but Kurosawa mode, which is the black and white mode for Ghost of Tsushima. Are you guys gonna play it in that, or are you gonna play it like color the whole way and then go to Kurosawa mode after?
I'll probably do that, but I know Josh
Yeah.
likes that black and white shit.
Josh is hyped for the Kurosawa.
Are you gonna play from the moment in Kurosawa and with Japanese dialogue?
I'm still debating on what if I want to do Japanese dialogue because they actually did the voice acting in English first, so the lip movements are in English instead of in Japanese. Okay. So it'll kind of be weird to have subtitles. It's like the opposite.
Yeah.
You know I mean? So I'm still I might do English just because of that.
Okay.
But had they been done in Japan and Japanese, I would have definitely been subtitled.
I think I'm definitely like just because of the amount of time that they spent with the design and the colors of the game, I'm probably gonna stick to color and English on my first playthrough. But what I've seen is, and my second playthrough, I'll do it in Kurosawa mode and with Japanese dialogue because I want the full experience.
Yeah.
But I actually saw, because at the same time, while we're doing this Expectations live stream, I also, I've been watching a few, reviews or live streams and stuff and trying to keep it as minimal as possible because I really want to get in there with like the full experience. But a lot of people who actually got this game early have platinumed it. So, yeah, like most of the reviewers.
So it's not a hard plat.
Exactly. So I'm curious
I might plat it.
On how easy or how quick or how long it would take to be able to platinum the entire game. I think it only takes like 35, 40 hours or something like that.
Yeah, that probably means that there's not going to be multiple endings because usually these people have had it for what, like 2 weeks maybe? There's no way you could play 50 hours twice. You know what I mean? To do the different endings to be able to plat it.
Yeah.
So I would say that it probably requires one playthrough to do everything, which means there's probably just one ending. That's my guess.
So I actually have a question. Well, I have I want to like pick your brains, right? So I'm curious on your guys' thoughts on like how many people do you think are gonna wait for the PlayStation 5 to even get this game or to even get Cyberpunk or any future PS4 games that come out? Do you think do you think that maybe the timing of it is gonna affect its sales and like how it's gonna get out there?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think because isn't it that when you get like these new releases, you get it on the PS5 automatically?
Well, there's some confusion because from what I've read and from what I've seen, it does if you have the physical version on some games, and it seems like, and I might be wrong. Again, I saw this in one of the PlayStation live streams. I saw one in I think Kind of Funny Games on their PS I Love You live stream as well. But I think there's some confusion because on PlayStation side, there's games that if you buy it digitally, it will not automatically update to the PlayStation 5 version. But if you have it on disc, then it can update to the PlayStation 5 version. So I don't know what the situation is with that yet.
Yeah, that's weird. I would imagine them doing that. I mean, because from the hard copy to digital, I mean, it's the same fucking game. I mean. I don't think they'd make you buy it twice.
Yeah, that'd be really bad.
And especially that I mean, this new PS5. What memory does it have? Does it have like a terabyte or some shit?
I think starting with a terabyte.
You have more than enough space to download a bunch of games. There would be no point. But I mean, shit. I mean, it is what it is. I mean. Know that you may get spoiled if you're waiting.
Yeah, Ralph, are you worried about that? PS5? About getting spoiled on it?
No, I know the Mongols lose. So
that's true. I guess, but since it's a fictional, they're taking a lot of fictional liberties. You know, maybe.
Well, I don't think they'll go that liberty.
No,
Yeah,
I don't.
the
I don't
Mongols
mean
are
that.
gonna
I mean, yeah, the Mongols. No, being realistic here, the Mongols are going to lose. But I'm saying like whatever the story elements that they have in store for what's the main character's name for Ghost? Do we know?
Jin
For
Sakai.
Jin, like whatever the main story elements are for him, I'm curious to know, you know, what kind of spoilers would be out there because that's a big thing.
I don't think it's gonna be like Last of Us,
no,
because
and I've
that's like
avoided Last of Us spoilers so far. I still don't know
I
what
don't
happened.
know. I don't know
So
how. Honestly,
I just
I
I
don't
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 know.
know
go on
how.
Twitter.
I mean, yeah, but even like on Facebook and
Nothing
shit.
happened.
We're not
Nothing
getting into that right now.
That's what happened.
We already did a live stream.
Nothing fucking happened.
We're not getting into this right now.
But to answer your question before, I think because PlayStation has like a ridiculous like single player fan base, so I really don't think it's gonna like really affect their numbers. But it might be for people new to PS5 a game to get because it's brand new. Like the console is brand new, but Ghost of Tsushima was like right. It came out like only a month before, so that's like a game that they new PS5 owners or new PlayStation in general owners will be looking back to get to have like to start off their library. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I
dude,
think that might even help their numbers because there's gonna be people switching to PS5.
like me.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is taking like every ounce of my willpower to not get it because it's in a time period I'm immensely interested in. It's a setting I'm interested in because I love Japanese history and culture, and it's a very unique setting. And I always complain about settings not being unique, and it's actually happening.
No.
Yeah.
And so like it's just more financially prudent to wait for a PlayStation 5. So I'm just like just
Well, the good thing is they increased the PlayStation 5 units from 5 to 6 million to 10 million units that they're preparing to launch with. So,
yeah.
the good thing is you're probably not going to miss out on it. The Ghost of Tsushima, I think one thing I kind of want to bring up that I'm curious about is, do you prefer or do you look forward to more the gameplay and how do I say this? The gameplay and combat elements, or the style and story elements of the game? Like, which ones are you looking more forward to?
Who's
that's a
first?
good question. I think it has to be a balance. Depending on, I mean, I think the games that always compel us the most manage to really do the best in both worlds. Like Red Dead had an amazing, emotional, kind of heart-wrenching story, but it also had amazing gameplay and an amazing open world. Um, but if I had to choose, I would probably, I don't know, man. I would probably say story, given my personal taste, because story is always what sticks to me when I look back on a game.
John?
I think it. I don't know. I would say a little bit of both. I would say story. I would say the combat more than the story, just a little bit, because again, back to the Assassin's Creed thing. I love the whole Ezio trilogy. That whole dynamic was fucking amazing.
Ezio Auditore de
and,
Firenze.
and correct, so that whole fighting mechanism, and again, from watching the videos, I get a very Assassin's Creed Batman feel. So, and I haven't had that since those games. And I mean, not considering Last of Us, but that Last of Us is its own fucking island. But I think its whole dynamic. Like, I've seen videos where you'll be running on like a rooftop, and then you'll jump down and like totally like take the samurai sword and stab somebody through
I'm
the
so
fucking head.
excited for
That's
that. Sounds
super
awesome.
fucking badass. So it's been a while since I've done that. Like again, the Ezio trilogy, I felt that was more, what I miss in combat and gaming and stuff, it's definitely those two styles of games. So I would say a little bit more the dynamic of fighting than the story. But yeah, I would say that's definitely my go-to.
Josh?
Well, for me, I have no idea what to expect from the story, but I'm open arms towards it. Like whatever happens, happens. I accept it. So for that reason, I'm mostly looking forward to gameplay because I don't want to have my heart destroyed if the story's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like my number one thing. And then if the story is good, even better. But yeah, I mean, as if it's like a safe story, I'll be fine with that. I love how the gameplay looks. You know.
I think, and this is just my personal opinion, but I kind of prefer the story element. At least that's what I'm looking most forward to. Only specifically because this is a PlayStation exclusive. This is their first open world RPG game, so I can't expect it to be like flawless gameplay, even though I hope it is. But I'm hoping that because Naughty Dog and Santa Monica. And a lot of studios have been doing better at it, and it's been doing great. But Naughty Dog and Santa Monica so far have done an amazing job of making me emotionally invested into the story. Obviously, Ralph, you're an Xbox guy, and you're getting into PlayStation now because Josh has introduced you to the world of exclusives, like Uncharted 4, for example. The whole Uncharted series, you're completely invested in it. And even though the mechanics of the first game are garbage, not garbage, but but even though the mechanics of the first game are like whatever, the story is still great. Last of Us, the same thing.
Exactly.
The first game, the mechanics were meh, but the story was great, and the mechanics now are even better. And even though the story is very divisive in the world of gamers, it's still amazingly done in the sense of like it's like a movie. It's blurring the lines, like I said in the last stream, between video games and films. So I'm kind of hoping that even if the mechanics, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier about if The Last of Us will affect my thoughts on this game or our thoughts on this game due to the level of attention to detail, that's why I feel like if they have a good enough story, if it brings me into that world and immerses me so much and makes me emotionally connected to the story they're telling and the characters, then I'm hoping that pushes for, if they are looking to make a second one or they're looking to make a new IP or whatever the case may be, that it will bring enough attention to it that PlayStation will back them. And then in that game, you'll have the improved mechanics and improved fighting style and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. When you look back at your favorite games, like throughout your life, I mean, I think it's a safe assumption that you think about the story.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I think about Knights of the Republic, I mean, I don't think about the turn-based combat. I think about Revan and the redemption story and all that stuff. And the same goes for every game, every major game I've played from that. I mean, that's had an impact on me, from Dead Space to Knights of the Republic to Halo. I mean, Halo, dude. Like, Halo's got smooth as fuck gameplay, but I don't think about any of that. I think about the Arbiter. You know what I mean? And give me a weapon.
Speaking of story.
Yeah. So there you go. There you go. So that's why
story.
That's why I take story so seriously.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for with it, because the thing is that it feels like it should be emotional. Like, from what we've seen, he is a samurai who essentially his entire village gets basically wiped out, and he abandons his code to save his island, to save his country. And even in the one of the first gameplay trailers that they showed, where he goes against I can't remember her name, but she was like another swordsman samurai in the beautiful sunset. It was like that duel that they did, if you guys remember.
Yeah.
And like I felt like, ooh, like this seems like a really emotional like twist, because he looks at her, he's like, why are you doing this? Like, don't make me do this. And I'm curious to know what that relationship is. So there's a lot of elements in it so far. It's getting me excited for the story and for me to like just like get completely immersed into it. And I'm hoping they do. I'm hoping they do a good enough job to allow them to get backed by PlayStation, which so far from all the reviews it looks like they are. But so that when they do make a second one or a new IP or whatever the case may be, they can continue their storytelling with improved budgets to make better, because let's be real here, Sucker Punch isn't Rockstar Games. They're not going to have the budget of Rockstar Games, so we can't expect perfection. But if this is like that stepping stone, that entry to the world of of what we have now as far as like these high generation games, I hope that this allows them to move forward with bigger, better budgets and more support and all that.
So I just gotta address something real quick. I just kind of busted out laughing because I saw the comments and Emily said, "Raphael, look at me in the eyes and tell me you love Titanfall 2 for the campaign."
Hey, we have
calling you out, man.
You know what? I mean, Emily, I think you were the one that was talking about how sad you were that BT died in the Titanfall 2 campaign. So, I mean, I'm just saying. Sorry.
See, but it's funny you bring that up because it's interesting how some games, even though they don't have a story, the mechanics of it are so well done. So imagine if they did have a really good story to back it up.
I feel that Last of Us 2 inevitably fucked me up on any story-driven game for a little bit.
Sorry, man.
So I think it's gonna take like a really good game to bring me back from this depression that Last of Us 2 gave me.
That's why Cyberpunk is coming out. Don't worry.
Great, 100%. So that's why I chose more combat than the story, because I'm still not over it.
Yeah, we're not gonna be over it for a while.
Will I ever?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I do love story games, but
it's gotta be a good fucking story.
It's because I know, but this is a brand new IP, so I have no idea what to expect. Like,
correct.
I want it to be a great story. Don't get me wrong, but if the gameplay is good, I'm already sold. You get me?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I'm in.
The good story is like the cherry on top for me, because right now, unless it's like later on where it's like the third game of Ghost of Tsushima, then I'll be like, it better damn well be a good story. Like, we're 3 deep in here. Yeah. You know what I mean? But for now, it's a totally new thing. But I don't want you to get me wrong. Like, I love story.
Yeah.
As much as anyone.
No, I got you.
But
now,
just my expectations for it are a little
now
bit
from
different.
what we spoke about earlier about the length of the game and that people have already platinumed it since they started playing, the reviewers. What's your guys' opinion? Because look, so John, for example, isn't a huge fan of like super open world, like thousands of quests, 300 hours to beat it, like Witcher kind of thing. Like that's not his style of games, which is perfectly fine. But I'm curious to know about like everyone's opinion, and if this game is not that long to really beat and even to platinum, then what's the likelihood of replayability? A lot.
And I'll tell you why. It's because there's 2 overarching styles of combat, and there's different stances that alter how you play. So I feel like you could just like want to play a certain way, however you naturally play the first time, and then the second time when you find something out like later in the game, you're like, oh, I'm gonna focus on this next time, because it's like you said, it's not gonna be as long. It's like 30 to 50 hours depending on how much you explore. So it's gonna be it'll be easy to replay, and you'll be able to play it like the new way, to make it different. And you could like stick to main story only since you already did everything.
What about you, John? Since you're not into these like super open world games, what's attracting you to play Ghost of Tsushima?
Like I've been saying, it's the fucking fighting dynamics. Like once I saw that this samurai is running on top of the roof, and then he jumps down and just fucking stabs some dude in the back. Like that was cool as fuck. Like just that whole dynamic of the fighting. Again, I know I've said it a billion times, but it's the Assassin's Creed that we've always wanted, and the Assassin's Creed of like the Ezio time. It's that fucking dynamic. That again, it gives me a very Arkham Asylum vibe. That whole sneaky, you could be sneaky or you could just go and fuck shit up. You have your different, I think you have smoke bombs, you have your bow and arrow, you have, I think you have fucking throwing knives too. That's badass.
Yeah,
I think the
the
whole
kunai,
dynamic.
yeah.
Like, this is the game if you want to be a fucking samurai or ninja. This is the game.
Yeah. So are you
Like-
gonna play as more of a samurai, or are you gonna play more as like a ninja style stealth?
As a samurai.
I don't know. I think I think it totally depends on the situation. Like if there's like 5 or 6,
It does not
enemies. I
depend.
think
For Ralph, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
It
For
does
Ralph, he's
not.
literally just gonna be a samurai no matter what.
Bro,
Me too.
like
I'm,
if everyone's scattered, I'm gonna do the ninja way. If everyone's grouped together and I gotta fuck shit up, I'm gonna start slicing. Samurai
that.
for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. The dynamics, 100%, is what really drew me to this game. And I haven't seen a lot of video, but I saw that IGN gave it a 9. So that's
saw that.
another thing that I'm looking forward to. That
Even though IGN is like, depends.
it's one of the many, but I've seen that they've been getting really good reviews. So now it's even hyping me up more because damn, like a lot of people like it. So
We're getting a lot of positives.
I'm gonna go straight samurai because, like, even though it's important that gamers have choices, and all those choices are valid because they're in the game.
Except
think
for the noob combo. No
Except
noob
for the noob
combos.
combo. No noob combo. Yeah, exactly. I think or boom shots during shotgun duels. That's a no-no. I think historical authenticity is important to me. So, and samurai just didn't. They just walked up to you and were like, "I'm gonna fuck you up right now."
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. And it didn't matter how many people there were or how many, eventually a measure of common sense would take over, I expect, and they'd be like, all right, I'm gonna stay away from this place for now.
Yeah.
But stealth was frowned upon. Now, mind you, that didn't stop them from being hypocrites, because Oda Nobunaga, who's a samurai warlord centuries later from when this game takes place, he was notorious for employing like ninjas and shit like that. And he employed them because he couldn't do it, because his code didn't allow him to do it. But that didn't stop him from hiring other motherfuckers to do it. You know what I mean? So there is a measure of like hypocrisy and double standards, and I'm sure they would have done it if they had to, but I don't know. I just gonna run in there in those camps and call those Mongols out.
Josh, what about you?
It's a little bit of a mix between that and I just wanna. I've done enough sneaking around, like over the past 10 years in gaming in general, where I just wanna fight head first, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I got like a taste of it in Sekiro, but like I kind of like stealthed my way through the main areas and then fought like a samurai during boss fights. But I want to do that all the time, not just boss fights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and the game's giving me the option, so I'll take it.
And you guys know this, but for anyone who's watching, I love to play the game how I believe the character would be in that game. So, for example, and spoilers will come, but if you've ever played Red Dead Redemption 2, I played Arthur Morgan exactly the way that I believed in my perception that Arthur Morgan would be in specific spots of the game. So, for example, when you move from camp to camp and you're running away from the Pinkertons and all that stuff, I would have him like growing out his beard and growing out his hair, and to the point of where he gets captured. When he gets captured eventually, like my Arthur Morgan had like the super long hair, super long. He looked homeless because he's been on the run for so long. And then once I got rescued, once I escaped and Arthur Morgan comes back, and then you get to the plantation and everything starts looking, better and better. That's when I gave him a haircut. And then, we started, with Arthur Morgan, you start going to the, to the little gatherings of parties and stuff to try to get information about the plantations and everything. And so he has to look a certain way. So I already had him so I like to play games the way I think that the character would play. Even in The Last of Us, and there's no spoilers in this, but even when you play as Ellie, which obviously it's all over the game, all over the trailers and stuff, the way I think Ellie would run around and dodge and move and like if I'm running away from an enemy and I'm trying to get behind a car, I'll literally put the dive so it looks like she's tripping, like trying to get away from the bullets, just to make it feel as like cinematic as possible. So for me with Ghost of Tsushima, I love the way the ghost outfit looks. I think it looks really dope. But depending on how the game goes, I'm probably going to start off as like straight samurai and kind of have him, I don't know. I haven't played it, so I don't know, but I kind of want to maybe like start a samurai because he doesn't really know what it is to get away from that code. And as the game progresses, go more and more into the ghost and like, and by the end of the game, maybe adopt that. I don't know how I'd like to do it, but I would personally, I'm probably going to play it the way I think he would be. And I think so soon after, he's not going to like be super stealthy and, know what to do. I think I'm going to be stealthy here and there, but most of it's going to be samurai until I get to that point where I feel like the character developed enough to abandon his code 100% and go stealth. But I love running in and gunning everything. So I'm probably going to be samurai fighting style with the ghost look. Because I think the ghost looks awesome, but I love the way the samurai fight.
Right. It looks like you can kind of go, you can kind of mix and match because like we've seen gameplay where he's in full samurai armor, looking like a miniature shed, which I think Josh like kind of summarized like perfectly. And then we see other gameplay where he's in full ninja mode. But we also see some cutscenes where he's kind of like in between, like he's got some of the ghost armor, but he's got one shoulder plate where he's got like the sheet on it. You know what I mean? It's just one. So I think you might be able to mix and match a little bit there, if you even kind of want to role play out a transitional period.
I think it also depends on the enemy AI and like. How difficult are they going to be? If you're just going to go in there samurai style, it might not work. So you probably have to be forced to go into like stealth aspects. But then I'm curious to know, like, if you're trying to go stealth and you're wearing the full on samurai armor, how does that affect your gameplay?
Well, the different armors give you different, like, not skills, but like, and not abilities, but they like affect your stealthing level, I guess you could say. Like you probably have more invisibility or whatever if you have like the ghost stuff on. So if you play with samurai armor as a ghost, you're doing yourself a disservice because it's probably going to be louder armor and you're not going to be able to hide as well. So that's just dumb, you know what I mean? Like if you decide to do that, if you're like, I want to look like a demon but try to be ghosting, like I don't know. The stats in the armors will pretty much determine how you play, for sure.
But I think Ralph is going to be in full samurai armor the whole time. I don't think he really cares.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. No, I don't really care what the situation is. I'm just going to walk in.
The samurai armor is going to help you though, because it's going to give you that defense buff.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Apparently,
so he's great.
It's going to be really hard to break through like gigantic sheets of steel.
Right.
So
that's true. There's like whenever there's gonna be a duel, you remember so in Red Dead, whenever there's a duel, it has like the little like old western kind of look, and then like you reach for the gun, and then it goes into like the what is it called, the dead mode or whatever, Deadeye, and then it's like you pull and shoot. So in this one, it's kind of a similar thing, but when you're going to a duel or you're about to fight. The Jin reaches back and then he like unclicks the sword out of the sheath, and then it's like it begins. And from what I've seen, dude, that looks so awesome. Like just the like the beautiful sunset with the Japanese like absolutely gorgeous landscapes, and then he's just there and it's just like You just see the sword come out.
I want to start every encounter with that.
Yeah, one little detail that Josh and I watched a video on. We basically watched this. I think it was a Japanese history professor, like watch the trailers.
Yeah.
And he like critiqued them. And one thing was that there's a part where he basically slaps, or he like kind of does like a jerking motion with the sword to kind of like get all the blood out, and then he just sheathes
That's a feature on it.
Yeah, so like that actually would never happen because because first of all, you wouldn't be able to get all the blood out by just kind of waving it around, and
it's sexy though.
It is sexy, but like it was like a thing they did later on as like a ceremonial gesture. So it wasn't even used in real combat. It was used, but like in a show setting. You know what I mean? So so what would have really happened is that, you know, what you would expect is that he would get like a piece of cloth and just kind of wipe the blade and then put it in its sheath. You know, he wouldn't do something crazy like trying to do some magic wand shit and kind of wave it around.
As cool, though?
I don't know. I think it would look pretty cool if he just like got a cloth and just did this, you know, and just
like after every battle.
And just kind of and then put it in. I don't know. I think it would.
Another thing he mentioned. Yeah, I mean it looks badass. Don't get me wrong.
I'm so excited.
Another thing he mentioned was the thing where he like after he killed somebody and then he did like a bow, kind of like honoring his foe. That's like, it's like it happened later, but bullshit. Like there's like honoring the dead is nice and all, but in the middle of war, no one has time for that.
Yeah.
So he didn't do that.
It's that whole thing. No, it's like it's that whole thing. Like in the midst of battle, the samurai would just do whatever they had to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously, you're just not gonna stop to honor the dead and pray and shit when other shit's happening. So
yeah, they did it later on, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of these things. I don't know. This is just a guess, but I feel like a lot of these like really badass samurai shit that we know and love today is like shit they made up in kabuki or something, where they're like, "Oh, honorable samurai," and like the old Japanese theater, it's like Shakespeare shit.
Yeah,
because like there's no time for all that stuff that we like the whole whipping the sword thing and bowing after every death. Like there's just no way.
No.
So, but we have this idea, and I have a feeling that it comes from like the Japanese own entertainment and how they like built it up,
like their own idealized version of their own samurai.
Right.
Well, I mean, a lot of Ghost of Tsushima is really inspired by Japanese filmmaking. That's why they have the black and white. I forgot how it said it. The Kurosawa mode.
Yeah.
I actually saw here on an article. Who was it from? I want to make sure I'm referencing the right people here. Let me see. Believe it was Screen Rant. But they do talk about that Sucker Punch on several occasions actually traveled to Japan and the Tsushima Island, specifically in an effort to make sure that its depiction of the country is accurate. Research was conducted with the help of Sony's Japan studio as well, helping to ensure greater authenticity. So they definitely did a lot to make sure that not only the land is, as accurate as it can be while also being, beautiful, but they also did a lot to just honor the Japanese film making industry as well as the actual history of samurais. But I think that goes with most things. Like it's the depiction that we have of that culture or genre or whatever it is that we're watching is always built up in certain ways that isn't true to life, Yeah, and I actually got a quick question because this is off subject. This actually has to do with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but I saw a video and I'm so curious about what you guys.
Yay.
Yeah.
What?
This one of the guys from Ubisoft. He's like, oh, we did some research on the Vikings, and it showed that they're not, just savages and raiders and stuff. They were actually farmers looking for settlements.
They actually had a very refined sense of fashion and grooming, actually, like to the point where there are records of Saxon men, like priests, complaining that Saxon women would just run to the Vikings because of how clean they were in comparison to their own men. So I mean,
clean and hot.
They really were not. They were arguably more civilized than the people they were raiding.
Yeah,
in many ways. So
interesting. But you see,
and they had rap battles. Like, how do you come on?
Yeah, bro. I mean, once you have rap battles,
yeah, they're automatically better.
That really is the height of civilization.
That's true. You're right. That's why the '90s will never die. But you see, it's funny that we bring it up about the ideas of samurai culture and our ideas of it have been influenced by film and what we've been told. Obviously, it's like you honor the dead and the way they do the sword, everything we just talked about. But then in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, what they were talking about was exactly that our perception of Vikings is this savage raiders, monsters, whatever, when they were actually, farmers and trying to find settlements and whatever the case may be. So I think it's interesting that this game does a lot for the samurai culture, but it also, it does more for the films than it does for the actual history of it, Yes. But then again, it works for games because if you're super realistic about it, because in real life, when you're at war, you're at war. You're fighting against the opposition, and you're on a battlefield. When you're in a game, it's like an open world, and every little spot is different battlefields that you can go to. So like you have the time to bow and to do all this other stuff.
Yeah, at your own leisure.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm gonna go to this battle today.
Exactly. Yeah. By the way, anybody who is watching, I see there is 8 people watching. If you do have anything you want us to talk about, or expectations, or questions, or any of that stuff, ask. I know Emily and Alan have been all over the comment section. One thing that Emily brought up too is that she wants to do one playthrough of Kurosawa mode. She wants to do a normal color mode and at least one on the nightmare mode, which I'm assuming is the difficulty, right?
I guess.
I think so. I think that has to do with the difficulty.
I don't know, bro. The only nightmare mode I know of is in Doom.
In Doom?
Yeah. Which is a difficulty, yeah.
I thought you meant Dune, like the Dune 2020 trailer. It's a nightmare because it hasn't come out yet.
No, Doom. Doom. DOOM.
Yeah, that's a different nightmare that is also valid.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. But, I think one of the other things I'm really excited about, and we've talked about it before, but just the landscapes of this game, man. Like,
oh yeah,
like it literally looks like you're playing inside of a freaking like art canvas in some of these scenes. Like when you're running across the fields and you see the winds blowing and everything, and the leaves falling upon the trees during the sunset. Like, it looks insane, man.
Oh yeah.
Can y'all look what Emily put?
Yeah.
She wants to know where Ralph got his pocket square because it's fantastic.
What is it?
BitchNiggaStylist.com.
It's just
Question.
a red pocket square. That's all.
Are y'all wearing pants? I'm wearing shorts.
Shorts.
Too lazy to stand up right
I'm
now.
wearing pants. Yep. Thank God.
Also shorts.
I'm not wearing any shoes. Oh shit.
For
I'm
real.
not wearing pants. Jesus Christ. But yeah, I guess my biggest expectations of this game is just gonna be the graphics, the gameplay, and the story, and everything about it. I'm just so excited to actually play. There's a game, and I swear to God, I think this is John, you're the one that showed me, but I think it's a Mandela effect. Because I could have sworn I played this game, and I remember it vividly, but I can't find it anywhere.
It's probably the Mandela effect.
It probably is, man. But I remember it was a ninja game, and it felt very linear open world kind of thing. But there wasn't no like sci-fi elements to it. It was very grounded. The only sci-fi element to it was like a little grapple you had to go over like ledges and stuff. But like
Was it Ninja Gaiden?
No,
it might have
it
been
wasn't.
Gaiden.
It wasn't. And I remember because I looked at it and it wasn't it. And it was like a PlayStation 2 game or something.
What about Tenchu?
Tenchu.
Because that's like one of the inspirations for Sekiro.
Tenchu.
And it's just like that. And From Software was even in on it. I believe either they were inspired or they actually helped develop it. I'm not sure.
I'm gonna look it up.
But try that.
Shadow Assassins, maybe there is. Tenchu. Ooh, this might be it, man.
Yeah.
You might be right. God, how do you have the memory to even remember that? I can't even.
The only reason I know is because I've been soaking up From Software for the past year or so. If not, I would have known because I didn't have a childhood. Remember?
Tenchu Z, I think was the one. Dude, that's the game. I think this is it.
Is it?
Yes, this is the game.
That's like one of the biggest inspirations of Sekiro right there.
Oh my god. Yes, that's the game. I remember this mission. Yeah, wow, that's hitting me with memories. This game was like, for me when I was a kid, this was like one of the first Japanese like anything kind of game I ever played, like, you know, based like ninjas and stuff, because since I was a kid I played Metal Gear. But since that game, I've been wanting a down to earth, open, you know, world or just story, samurai or Japanese inspired game, and that's why when I saw Ralph getting his butt whooped by that ginormous ape looking thing in Sekiro, and and I saw it, I was like, okay, I wanna try it. I got it, and it's a nightmare, but you know, it's still fun. It's
still beat it though.
Yes, you did, and I haven't, and I'm probably not gonna beat it for a while.
I'm on New Game Plus.
You're a masochist, but I just like it. Yeah, it filled that void a little bit for me, but I still wanted something way more grounded. You know, I wanted something way more realistic because it just doesn't make sense to me that when it comes to samurais and ninjas and everything else that has to do with just, you know, Japanese old culture. That's like the perfect basis for a game, and they just haven't really done anything like that until now. And so that's why I'm super excited for it, because, you know, everything is fantasy now. And yeah, fantasy is great. Yeah. But, you know, like, we can get grounded and use history and be able to explore that. And Assassin's Creed was like John has said multiple times, this is the game everyone's wanted from Assassin's Creed, except they gave you Valhalla, which no one really wanted Valhalla. No one wanted Vikings because we already had amazing, you know, Norse mythology.
They gave us France.
Yeah.
They gave us Britain. Mm-hmm. They gave us Valhalla.
Italy.
They gave us Egypt. They gave us Greece. Like, and what else? They gave us America.
Yeah.
America.
They started asking for Japan since the Ezio trilogy, and they gave us all these other things instead. So
yeah,
I want the record to show.
They're literally, it's Assassin's Creed, and ninjas are assassins. Like it,
literally.
You know, but like it's also.
You could even give them like an Assassin's Creed headband, bro, and they'll look awesome with a little symbol.
Cool.
That's all they need.
Cool.
But it's the curious thing about it is that even in Assassin's Creed, it has a lot of fantasy elements in it, like, you know, with the Apple of Eden and all that stuff. And then, you know, they abandon all the stupid modern day Animus and Desmond Miles, all that crap. But even in one of the most realistic historic games that has to do with like actual history, and I actually learned more from that than I ever did in school. It still had a lot of fantasy elements to it, and so, but it still stayed very grounded, and that's what I've been dying for from a samurai Japanese style game. So I'm super excited for that.
Right? Yeah.
We have 2 questions. My brother asks, do you guys think you will ever have a gaming YouTube channel where you guys play multiplayer games like the new Resident Evil?
We can definitely do that.
That would be fun. Any horror game would be pretty amazing.
It would be 18 or older, because the amount of cursing and anger that'll probably come through.
Wait, the new Resident Evil is gonna have multiplayer?
Yeah. No, like that multiplayer Resident Evil game, Resistance.
It's like Resident Evil's version of like Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So whatever.
No, you'll probably if whenever we do that, which my goal with this channel is to basically grow it into, you know, a mainstream gaming channel, which would be awesome.
Yeah, we're just gonna talk. We're just gonna talk shit about games. That's all we're gonna do.
Yeah, but we can definitely venture into playing multiplayer games together and stuff like that. Most likely when Halo comes out, you know, we'll probably jump on that and Ralph will destroy everyone. But a lot of this is going to be us talking and giving out our opinions on games and reviews and expectations and all that stuff. My goal for this specific channel is just to open up discussions on video games. I don't think there's enough of that. I think a lot of the discussions on video games are just so technical and, you know, are just about the video game industry itself. And like there's no channel I haven't seen anything of live stream or anything about Ghost of Tsushima that actually has like actual historical elements into it and talking about it philosophically and all that other type of stuff. What was the other question I saw here?
What game do y'all want to see remade?
Ooh.
Knights of the Republic.
Ooh. I'll second that, and I'm gonna answer Vincent's because he's gonna say Dino Crisis.
You're partially correct. That would be my second game.
What would have been your first game?
Metal Gear Solid 3.
Okay.
Definitely. You know what they should do, bro? They should remake the entire Metal Gear Solid Legacy, but let's not even go there.
That's a whole nother...
Why do you say things that will never happen? Like, there's so many things you could have said.
And they don't even have to...
You know?
Yeah, they don't even have to do it like anything crazy. They could just put it in the Fox engine. That's all.
I didn't need that today. Like, it was so much we could have talked about. Didn't have to bring that up. In all seriousness, though, I think... I personally, I think, yeah, I agree. I think Knights of the Old Republic would be a great. I think that's the term, right? That's the term we have to make sure we're sticking with, is that it's going to be remade, not remastered. That's a huge difference. Yeah. So
yes,
if it was Knights of the Old Republic remade, it was a remake. It was from the bottom up, you know, made new and new graphics and new mechanics and new everything.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the core story and everything else sticks. Yes. But if it's a remaster, no. I wouldn't want that.
No. And I mean, like, you know, I think Knights of the Old Republic, the story there is better than any of the movies, including the classics. So everyone should have a chance to
That's a big one.
Experience that. But
So that's a great question actually, though. Let's just to bring it up real quick, what's top 3 games that you would want remade? Just out of curiosity.
Ooh, top 3.
Yeah, I know we're going off subject, but I'm curious.
Oh, that's tough, dude. That's a tough question. I gotta look through my Steam library real quick.
Well, for me, it's definitely Dino Crisis, Metal Gear Solid 3, and Dino Crisis only because, like, first of all, how has a game like that not been like made again? It's a freaking like third-person shooter action horror game, but instead of like zombies, you're dealing with dinosaurs. Like, it's Jurassic Park with guns. I don't know how that hasn't been pushed down the table yet. You know,
I don't either, bro. It's honestly bewildering.
So I definitely have a top 2. You know, the obvious one is Knights of the Republic, but the second one I think would be Fallout New Vegas, because Fallout New Vegas has an incredible universe. It has an incredible story. Caesar's Legion for the win, and it's very like The Witcher in that every kind of like quest is sort of unique. So I think if you remade that with some good gameplay, some good some new graphics, it'd be amazing. It'd be on The Witcher's level easily.
Shoot. Okay. Josh?
Pass.
No, you can't keep doing this.
He already has his dream getting remade.
You gotta
not Dark Souls. What's the new one?
Demon
Souls. Yeah. You got your wish. You're done. Like, you're good. You got what you wanted.
I mean, yeah, I never got to play that one, so it's awesome that I'm getting to play a remake.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, for real, like real answer, like as you all know, but maybe the viewers don't know, I didn't really have a console growing up, so I want everything to be remade because I want to play all the old games and enjoy them. You know what I
We
mean?
got a we
So
got a
I'm
question.
I'm an interesting
Sorry.
case.
We got a question from Nicholas Gonzalez. How do you feel about the new Spider-Man coming out for the PlayStation 5?
I'm
It's
excited.
gonna
Getting
be
it.
amazing. I'm replaying
Getting it.
Ralph, did you ever play Spider-Man on the PS4?
Yep.
Did you beat
I
it?
played it in England actually. I didn't beat it. I got to the point because I would just leave school when I was living in England. I would just leave school and go straight to my friend's apartment and I'd play it. And I got as far as the part where you're in the prison and all the villains break out.
Bruh.
You're like halfway.
So yeah, it's towards the end. Yeah.
That's more than halfway.
As
Yeah.
far as that's about as far
But
as
you
I
have a
got.
ways to go.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, man, that game actually has a really, really strong emotional ending. Like for a comic book game, it's gonna
Yeah.
bring some tears. The Spider-Man for the new PlayStation 5 is the new Spider-Man, which is Spider-Man Miles Morales, for the PlayStation 5. It's not a full game. It's what's the term that they use for it? It's not a full game. It's like it's not a DLC
they didn't
either.
Say it was, it's not a DLC.
It's like the Lost Legacy.
Yeah, it's like
Is it going to be a standalone expansion?
Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
it's a standalone expansion similar
Not as
to the
big.
Lost Legacy.
It's like Blood Dragon from Far Cry.
Yeah, essentially.
But bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it's just gonna. I think it comes back to what we were talking about earlier with Ghost of Tsushima, in the sense of like the danger of being repetitive in certain aspects. I know I shared a tweet recently that Josh saw that someone was complaining about how critics shouldn't be complaining about repetitiveness because it's inevitable in video games and you can really pick it out from anything and et cetera, et cetera. And although I do agree in some aspects, I think when it comes to being repetitive, I think it's just a sense of like being repetitive from what you've come from. So if you have Ghost of Tsushima, for example, there's 1,000,000,001 open world games before it. So as long as it's not repeating what those other games have done, then it's doing a good job. Obviously, it's going to be like combat's repeating. Like there's 1,000,000,000 sword games. There's no way you're going to get away from that. But
Exactly.
in Spider-Man, like I'm curious on how they're going to make it different from the regular Spider-Man because it's still Manhattan, still New York. I think what it's going to be different is his powers, where he has like the electrical powers and the invisibility powers and all that stuff. Avengers game, yay or nay? Me and John are definitely yay. I don't know about you guys.
Nay.
Nay. And I'm nay because I genuinely just don't like the gameplay. It's not any bias or anything like that. I just saw the gameplay and I wasn't very convinced by it.
Gotcha. I think the thing is with it is that, at least this is my mentality going into it, I'm not looking at it as like, because this is Square Enix. So they're not, they're not Rockstar, they're not Naughty Dog, not Santa Monica, Sucker Punch, none of this stuff. They're very kid-friendly games like, Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm just going in it as this is a kid's game, but with modern day graphics. And like, if I get to fly around as Iron Man and blow shit up and make quirky remarks, like I'm there. I'm down. Like whatever. Now if this exact game, the way it exactly looks and everything like that, was made by a major studio, and I mean like a more AAA major line story driven or mechanic driven studio like the ones I said before, then I would definitely be way off and I'd be like, they could do so much better. But because it's made by Square Enix, it's better than I even thought they would even be able to do. I thought they were just going to do like a top down, like, switch them up kind of playing kind of thing, like, what you see in the old school superhero games or in the Lego games.
All those button mashers, they just go around.
Yeah. So the fact that they're not doing that, like, it already looks better than what I envisioned that they would do. So, I still want to get it just because I get to play as Iron Man. So.
I agree, and I think back to that question of the top 3 games to be remade. I would say, I don't know if y'all have ever played the Condemned games. those scary ass games.
dude. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Condemned
Super
Bloodshot,
fucking
I
wild.
think, was the one that I played at your house, John.
This begs
Second,
another question.
yeah.
What's the scariest game you guys have played?
Well, I would say one of the condemned games. I can't even remember if it was the first or the second one.
I think Anthem was the scariest game I ever played.
No, it wasn't a
like-
game, but PT.
Yeah.
The little that it
Oh.
was,
PT was good.
and I think that's another one that needs to be made, not remade. And
Well, there's
I've been
rumors that
trying
they
to
are,
look
so we'll see.
I've been trying to look for this game that I used to play on the PS2. That it was a very scary game, but I can't fucking remember the name of it.
Does it have to be like played or that we finished? Because I've played a shit ton,
Let's just play.
but I haven't
Yeah,
played. I haven't.
I think
I haven't
play's
finished
good.
many. Because for me, like just play Silent Hill, for sure.
Oh yeah, that's another one.
Like that shit was nightmarish.
Bro, for me,
And they made the controls bad on purpose, so you can't. Like it's hard for you to run away.
Yeah.
So those
With
motherfuckers.
the camera angles and shit.
Yep.
For me, it has to be Fear.
Oh, Fear is awesome too.
The
Yeah.
first Fear.
You know,
Yeah,
I didn't
because like,
find it that scary.
bro, the thing about, on my list I'd put Dead Space.
Yeah, I was
But the
gonna say that.
difference- But the thing is, Dead Space kept me playing. Like, Dead Space was scary, but I was like, I gotta keep playing because I gotta know what's going on. But Fear, it got to a point where I was like, fuck this. It's too scary. Like, I'm done. But
See,
Fear.
that's where I fall into, like, I have the three categories of did it scare me to death that I didn't want to play? Did it scare me to death but I kept playing? And then did it not scare me enough? And it could have. And I think, like, Dead Space is, for example, like the game that I found terrifying, but I didn't have a problem playing. I never felt like, oh, I don't want to play anymore. I felt scared. Yeah, like I was like, I don't want to go through that freaking door.
Scared all the fucking time.
Yeah,
dude.
but like I still, because like I personally don't like games where I can't fight back. So in Outlast, for example, that for me, I can't play. Like I can't play it because I'm too afraid because I can't do anything, and that's not how I would react in real life. Like it's you run away and you hide in a locker, and then you gotta wait for him to. And like for me, like I can't. Like I can't do it.
I can't either, and it's just uninteresting to me. Like just running all the
Yeah,
time.
it just bothers me. But like a game that I
Yeah.
think did great on that, which is a game me and Ralph have great experience in, and it's Alien Isolation.
bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
turning on the Kinect
when
and just
hey yo bitch, and then the alien just comes in because the Kinect can hear the audio.
yeah, man.
Just
Like
comes in and kills you.
that game did a great job in allowing you to still fight back. You had a gun and you had a little flamethrower at some point and stuff. And you had the ability to be able to fight back. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm afraid. Like, I'm scared. But, like, at least I have an option. But I'll tell you what, the game
Right.
that still to this day freaks me the hell out, and we talked about it earlier, was Dino Crisis. And that's just because I
found it.
have what's the word? Like a connection to it.
Phobia?
No, not phobia. Like a bias or a
Fear?
connection to it. Because when I was a kid, mind you, I was like, I don't know. I think the game came out in 93 when I was born or something, or 99 or something. And I remember I played it when I was like 6 or 7 years old. And this is a horror game of dinosaurs. And like, I even though you could fight, again, the controls are terrible. They're just like Silent Hill, controlled camera angles. And I remember, I'll never forget, there's this one, if anybody's ever played Dino Crisis, there's this one part where you get out of the control room, and like all of a sudden there's like a raptor like that just popped out of a door, and it's like like that, and it's down the hallway. And I remember I come out the door, and like it shows the raptor. I'm like, nope. Go back to that door. I stopped playing for months. When I was a kid, I was like, no. And then the next time was a freaking T-Rex that you're helping out a doctor, and the T-Rex breaks through the ginormous window. and like I literally screamed and I threw the controller and I stopped playing for a very long time. So that game still gets me even now.
You're like, I've seen this movie.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
exactly. I'm like, nope.
Have you guys ever played this game on the PS2, Indigo Prophecy?
I've heard of it.
Yes, sir.
Never played it.
That was one of the most freakiest games at the time, and to this day, I mark it under probably Last of Us. I'm sorry, under Condemned as scary.
Josh and Ralph, just for reference, this game is like the PlayStation's 2 versions of like Detroit Become Human. It's that very like
like Android.
No, not Android, but the type of gameplay.
It's a demon.
The way you make like story.
Yeah, the story choice and stuff. So when you start off in the game, and I know we're completely off topic. We're not talking about Ghost of Tsushima anymore, but whatever. In this game, you actually start off, and it's actually really cool. And I remember you start off, you're like in a diner, and you wake up and you're in this bathroom, and there's a dead body with blood all over the place. And then the screen cuts in half, and it shows that there's a cop that walked into the diner, and the cop's like asking for the bathroom, and you have to like get the body away and find a mop and like clean up the blood and do all this stuff before the cop gets to the bathroom. And then like, you know, it's like little moments like that where you wake up again and you're like in this bedroom and there's like, you know, it looks like it's robbed. There's a murder scene or something, and there's somebody walking down the hallway and you got to clean everything up and like word your way out of it. But it was scary because a lot of the moments you didn't know, like it was more suspenseful, like holy crap, am I gonna get caught? Am I gonna get caught? Am I gonna get caught? And it was very much like that.
Right.
And then it had a lot of like weird, I don't know,
like imagery and stuff.
Yeah. But it was scary.
It was
like psychedelic.
Yeah. To this day, that's one of the games I've never beaten. Like I got all the way to the end, I couldn't beat the final boss, and I never played it again.
Yep, I agree. I never beat that game, but I would definitely like to see that game being remade. That style of just I don't know.
Excuse me, I'll be right back, guys.
Between
Finally,
that and
God, about time. Get to kick him out of the chat.
Yeah, I would say between that and definitely Condemned and fucking. I forgot what was the other one I said, but I think PT definitely is another one that needs to be made and or remade, you know, correctly. Because I mean, that game on its own, the little demo that you got to play, you know, fucking. I remember losing your shit, and then you'd have to pause the game for then something to happen, and then when you continue to play is when it continued. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, they wanted you to get frustrated, so you paused it.
Yeah, that's definitely Kojima. Those freaking mind tricks, man. Always does that.
Imagine that shit in VR. Like, that would be insane.
Probably will be.
Yeah.
Probably will be now that they're coming out with
And that's small enough to be a VR game already.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see that Nikki put, how do you feel about the new Resident Evil Village being first person like Resident Evil 7? And Resident Evil 7 also had a complete VR version. And that shit was scary, man.
Was it like the full game, or was it like
full
the VR part of
the
it?
full game. And here's the thing: when you played it in the VR, the crazy part about it is like, you know, in VR you're able to look around, yeah, but you're actually able to like lean forward and look down. You're able to like look around a corner. You're able to kneel down and like look at things. So like right now, like in the demo, I remember opening up the refrigerator and there was like a bunch of corpses and stuff, and you can like lean in and really look at everything and like look through the door, and you can even have the door open and like look over it to see if there's anything behind, you know. So it's a different gameplay compared to the regular game.
Right.
I'd get it. I'd get the new one.
Yeah. But anyways, let's retract back so we can close this up because we're going on 2 hours now.
2 hours.
Ghost of Tsushima. Any other things we want to bring up? Any other things we want to talk about before we end?
I think we should give a pre-rating and then a post-rating.
What do we think? Or is it what do we think or what do we hope?
I would hope to give it a solid 9. I think the dynamics and the story and just the environment and everything. I think so far I'm gonna shoot for a 9, but I think it might change after playing the game, but who knows? But I'm definitely hoping, like I said, Last of Us completely ruined me a little bit. So I look forward to it, but I'm gonna kind of take a step back and not be like super uber excited, but I'm excited. But yeah, that's my thought, my rating.
Cool. Josh?
I'm gonna give you 3 answers. I'm expecting no less than 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Maybe it'll be an 8. I want a 9.
Okay.
That's the range I'm expecting, I guess you could say.
Ralph bitch nigga socaras.
Wow, dude. Please, come on. I'm gonna give it an initial rating of 7.8 because I'm kind of balancing my excitement for it, for the setting, for the story, for the culture of it, with the kind of realistic expectations, because this is a brand new IP,
right?
And they're trying a lot of things out. It's a brand new setting. Everything about it is new, right? Not everything about it. It's got some similar things from Ubisoft games and stuff like that we talked about with open worlds, but a lot of it is new, and it's a brand new story that they're making from scratch. They can't just keep recycling animuses, and shit like that. So
right,
which I'm so tired of.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be a great game, but I feel like it's gonna be like their sort of like a testing ground. Like they're gonna be mistakes that are gonna be forgivable because it was their first kind of foray into this.
Right.
And that's why I'm gonna give it an initial 7.8, because I think it's gonna be good, but I think there are gonna be some shortcomings that we'll probably see improved later on.
Okay. I don't really want to give a rating because I have no idea. I would hope. I don't think I'm gonna give it anything higher than a 9 or 8.5. Only because I already know from what I've seen, there's a lot of limitations to it as far as the level of detail and graphics, and in the sense of like where it could be with a higher budget, or much bigger studio like Rockstar, for example, or CD Projekt Red. And I just, for me, that's how I take it into account. I do more of like the overall game, the story, and the mechanics, and I honestly have no idea what the story's going to be, so I can't really rate it. I'm hoping that my opinions change, and I hope I play it, and I hope it blows my mind. That being said, though, I'm just like, I think this is a beautiful time in gaming, because it's been a while before The Last of Us came out. It's been a while since we've had like really in-depth story games that like we all could just like get away from society for a few days and just invest into it. And so I'm super excited for that. I don't have too many expectations as far as like where I think they could be or should be or any of that stuff. I just want to play the game and enjoy it and see what they got to offer. And hopefully they blow my expectations away. I think they will. I think from everything we've seen, it's going to be incredible, and I can't wait to play as a samurai against the Mongols and have that dynamic samurai freaking gameplay.
Hell yeah.
Customize my guy, and hopefully, maybe customize my sword. Whatever it is that they allow you to customize and play around with. I just really want to see it. And one thing I want to bring up before we close out, I don't know what this is, but Emily says, I will donate $100 to the 4 of you to force me to play the victim in a co-op Dead by Daylight game. What's Dead by Daylight?
Oh,
Is that a new game?
It's a game, yeah.
Right? Dead by Daylight. Let me see. Before we close out, I'm just curious now.
She wants to be the victim?
No. She wants to donate $100.
She wants him to be a victim.
If the 4 of you force me to play the victim. Oh, yeah. Isn't this like Jason? where like one guy's a bad. Like,
yeah, you're being.
I've played Friday the 13th. It's like similar to that, right? I think.
I think
I have
so.
no idea.
I don't know, but for $100, yeah, we'll do it. I'll
I'm
definitely look into it. But
if it's a free game, I'm interested.
$25 a piece, that's fine.
For $100, we'll do a lot.
Yeah, and I'm okay. Well, so out of curiosity, I want to have a Ghost of Tsushima post review, spoiler free, and a spoiler talk. Ralph, obviously, you can't be part of a spoiler talk, but do you want to stay away from the spoiler free one too, and just keep your expectations as clean as possible?
You know what? I'll go. I'll be part of the spoiler one just to kind of see where it's at.
No,
the spoiler one or the spoiler free?
Free, you mean?
The spoiler free one.
Yeah.
The spoiler free
Okay.
one. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So we'll definitely do a spoiler free review, and then we'll do a spoiler talk. What we'll do is that I think the best approach is we'll just do a spoiler. We could do a spoiler free live stream, and immediately after just go into a spoiler talk and just
turns off his camera.
Yeah. I just exclude myself.
Exactly.
Right.
And just keep drinking.
Yeah.
Exactly.
With the knowledge that I can't play.
Exactly. And we'll do that, and yeah, we'll get together and I think some of these questions are really interesting just to talk about. Like Alan was asking for the most. What do we think are the most disappointing games of the PS4 and Xbox One? We're talking about games that we wish we would remade. So we could definitely bring up those topics in future streamings. But for now, I think we're going to close out the Ghost of Tsushima hype train expectations video. I know we were really on point, and then we got off track, and then we got back on it. But this was fun, and I actually really wanted to learn a little bit more about the actual samurai history. So I was really curious about that. But that's pretty much it for the hype train talk. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys do like this content, hit the subscribe and the like button and leave a comment letting us know what you'd like to see more of. And if you have any questions that you want us to really touch upon in the future videos. And we'll see you on the spoiler-free review of Ghost of Tsushima. And I think we'll also have one, obviously, for Cyberpunk and the future games that will be coming up. So, again, thanks so much for watching, guys. And I think we are done.
Peace.
Cheers.
Deuces.